And if you don't know, now you do know. This is the Gunz Show, the greatest city in the world, the city that never, ever sleeps. Everyone stop what they're doing. Stop, focus, pay attention. I am honored. I am stoked. This person's been a big influence, not only on me, but for guitarists and the music industry and just musicians and fans of music for years now. And he's got his own stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to dive into a lot going on, plenty of stories going on here with Dave Keuning, obviously also from The Killers. What's up, my man? How are you, buddy?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, here in San Diego, I can't complain too much.
Yeah. Now, I feel like, do you surf? I feel like in San Diego, there's either two things you do. You either surf or you, I guess, hang out. Like, what does one do in San Diego?
I'm more of the hangout one.
Yeah.
I grew up in Iowa, and I've had every opportunity to surf here. I live pretty close to the ocean, but I'm just like, I like to jump in for a few minutes and swim around. That's nice, as long as I don't get in the way of the surfers, because they're all touchy about it. But yeah, I never learned, and I have friends who are good at surfing, and then they kind of tell me enough that make me not want to try, because they've been doing it their whole life and they still fall and they like hurt their arm.
Right.
I don't know how they hurt. And I'm like, all these stories and then they can get feisty out there if you're inexperienced and you're like in their lane or whatever. They like start fights in the water and stuff.
And you're like, no, I don't need that. You're like, I do not need that in my life right now. Also, you can't afford to get injured. Like, you can't screw up your arm. Like, what are you going to do? You can't play live. No. You don't need that.
I don't know. I don't see how you hurt your arm on water, but maybe it's the surfboard or a rock that they didn't see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wake up and I look out the window, and off in the distance I can see surfers, and I'm like, good for you. It's 6 a.m. It's really cold water.
Yeah, no way.
Not my thing.
Not my thing either. Coming off of that, though, about being a risk taker and stuff. Now, obviously, the Killers, et cetera, are massive and become huge. But even in the growing up era stuff, when you were playing shows, even the solo stuff, obviously you crush it live. You're very, energetic on stage. You do what you do. Were you ever a risk taker on stage, or like, did you ever come close to maybe pyro going off or falling off, or like kind of just like got a little too into it that like shit got almost really dicey at times?
So you're talking about risks live?
Yeah,
at least?
Risk taking live on stage.
There's definitely a few missteps. Some sober, some not as much sober, that risks were taken. I've jumped off a few things or climbed off a few things that were a little higher than I thought. Or like, how do I get down? These are like the early days. I'm like I'm thinking, how do I be cool, and how do I like go crazy at this little club? And I try to step on a monitor, and then you're like, this wasn't such a good idea.
Right.
Like, now I got to jump down. And as I got older, it got trickier. Because like jumping off like 8 feet, kind of start to feel it.
Right.
It's not, and it doesn't look as cool as it should.
And you definitely regret it for a little bit. What about pyro mishaps? Yeah. Did you ever go to like, obviously they're always fluorescent taped off and stuff, but you have a couple of drinks. Have you ever had any close calls with the pyro?
I have not had any. That's like a sobering moment for me, where like I may have a few drinks some night, but the pyro was marked off, and I respect that. I do not want, my arm burned off like James Hetfield had, like, or whatever. That was a mishap. The closest thing to a pyro mishap we had was actually during Wembley Stadium in England, one of our biggest shows we ever did, and it was a oddly timed explosion, or like that was supposed to happen, but I think it was at the wrong time, and like it sounded like a friggin' bomb went off, and we were all just like, yeah. And I think it really messed up Mark the most, because he was not wearing in-ears. Well, half the band wear in-ears, either for your personal choice of monitors or whatever, but that like was closer to him, and it messed up his ears.
Jeez, not good, not ideal, right? But
not good.
Yeah. Not ideal at all. Yeah.
None of us were expecting it. It was just like,
just like, shit,
what was that? And like, not like usually it's like right on a part, you know, you're ready for or whatever. But
Yeah.
this was sort of an accident.
Damn. Well, I mean, listen, that's the craziness of the live show. I will say this though, I don't know really how to phrase this because I don't want to say that you know that you don't take risks anymore, but I do want to say that you did take a risk with this new album, and by that I mean I don't know if risk is the right word, but there's definitely an evolution with your sound. And we're going to go away from the killer stuff right now. We're going to focus on Dave's solo stuff right now because he's got a brand new album coming out in a little over a month from right now, A Mild Case of Everything. I've been able to hear a couple of songs. Bad Instincts is a jam, and I cannot wait to hopefully see that song live and just enjoy it and just go wild and just go fucking crazy during it. But I feel like, I don't know if risk is the right word, man, but you definitely, I really like this next step for you with this solo stuff, my man.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess there's some risks. I felt a lot more comfortable this time around. So
Good.
I guess the whole thing is risk, but there's a little downside to this. You know, I wanted to get these songs out, and I wasn't afraid to do whatever style I wanted or whatever. I just did it. I think because I'm into a lot of different things, and rather than be like just a rock band, or I also like synths and, you know, acoustic songs. So maybe there's some risks lyrically. I don't know. I felt pretty comfortable with everything though.
Was it kind of almost just because you have been able to put out, you know, you've had a storied career so far and you have done some solo stuff in the past, was it almost not as much pressure because it's not like, hey, there's a major, you know, labels but yelling at you, or all of a sudden you send out an email and 30 people are on a reply and you're like, why you tell me what I'm supposed to do with my music when I don't even know you? You're just on an email chain. Was it kind of just like an effort moment? I'm just going to do what I want on my own stuff.
It was kind of that, not in like in aggressive terms, just like I'm at home, I'm going to do whatever I want here. And there's no one around to say no or that I can't do something. You know, I play as many keyboards as I want. I sing whatever I want. If I want to make a really long song, that I have one of those finally, I can do that and not worry about it being in a format of, you know, probably won't be on the radio, but because it's almost 9 minutes long. But I love it. I love it. So I'm happy with it.
So do you think it was, you know, I always find it interesting when, you know, musicians go from a group to their solo stuff and whatnot. Did you have an inner struggle? Was it more difficult to struggle with yourself? Was it harder to struggle with yourself and just keep going over things and be like, well, do I put this here, this, or trying to get a song by the rest of the guys that will make it onto the actual album, do you think?
Oh, so with the Killers, you mean?
Yeah, like if you because you'd have to get you know, everyone has to kind of, you know, come together and make the song together. Sure. Or is it more difficult when you keep over-analyzing or second-guessing yourself because it's just you on a solo album, do you think?
I think it's harder in a band, but there's value and frustration in having other members at the same time, because you need other opinions. You need people to affirm that this thing you created is good. And you either get it from the other guys or you don't, you know? So it's pretty clear. And then if you believe it's good, then you hold it to the side and save it for a rainy day, or you try and bring it back up again later in a different form or something, like, hey, I got a brand new idea. I hope they don't remember, that kind of thing. Change the key of it or something, you know, those are some of the tricks people can do. But yeah, it's harder to get a song on there. Like I said, it's good and it's a good and a bad thing. It's freeing when you work alone, but there are definitely times when you're like, well, man, I wish could ask somebody do they like this verse better or this verse better. And I guess that's what, you know, I worked with the producer briefly and bounced stuff off him, so it wasn't always alone.
Yeah, we're speaking here with Dave Keuning, by the way, who's got a brand new album coming out. What's it, June 25th, right? A Mild Case of Everything?
June 25th.
Absolutely.
I got a few songs out already, kind of scattered, like on Spotify, Apple, Bandcamp, SoundCloud. I like one song kind of came out accidentally on Apple, I guess. So I'm cool with it though. It's fun with me.
I want to ask you this because especially during the last year, I've kind of went up and beyond and started not really calling in favors, but asking bands that I've known that are kind of big bands. And I felt that it was important for them to kind of talk to their fans, because without live music, I felt like a lot of fans were kind of lost, and music was always there for us. And a question I've asked small bands to literally massive bands, and the songwriters from them is, I get two answers for this. One is I go about like how songwriting was last year of their lives, and some of them go, you know what, it was actually it was difficult because I write because of life experiences, and because I was stuck inside, I got writer's block, or I couldn't do it. But on the flip side, others say, you know what, it was actually freeing because I wasn't in the back of a tour bus trying to lay down riffs or try to put down ideas and waking up every day in a different city, and that I was finally had time to myself. So I want to ask you, because what side would you kind of go on, do you think?
The second one you described, it was much better for me. I have saved, to be fair, I've a lot of ideas over the years in the back of buses, hotel rooms, mostly on my phone. But I was never able to dive into them very far. So like my first album, I did like 2 days of listening to voice memos from like 3 different old iPhones. And that was like a very time. I probably should do it again because there's probably stuff I'm forgetting, but so but the time at home allows you to go further into it and see them through to the end. And as far as like inspiration, you know, I think if you hear the album, a lot of it is open for interpretation, but just by watching the news, it was a crazy 2 years, or from like, you know, it's been very crazy. So there was plenty to write about.
Yeah. Did you find yourself, you know, because the album's obviously been done and stuff, did you find it, did you have a central theme for it, or was it kind of just like, we're just going to put it together? Like, is it a message, like, like, is it a summer vibe album? I mean, I've been able to hear a couple of songs. I wouldn't really call it but like, did you have it's not a concept album either. So what was your kind of mindset going in? Did you have to switch some lyrics around as shit got worse?
It's kind of half of a concept record, and other stuff. I try to take every song in a different approach, but there is some recurring themes, like I said, about the events of the last couple of years that come and go in various songs. But there are some songs I just was like, I just want to have fun on this song.
Nice.
And not take my lyrics too seriously, even though it's so funny. I get people asking me about my lyrics and about Killer's lyrics, and I think people tend to think that they're a lot more meaningful than they are. Like that must mean something. I was like, well, it might just rhyme with the previous line. And like, I've changed stuff last minute where you have a line and then you need to take out a couple of words because once you go to sing it, there's too many syllables going on, and then it changes the whole meaning of the sentence. But you're like, screw it. It sounds good. Right. So, you know, but it means something completely different. Just taking out like the word not or the word you versus I, it flips it completely.
That's wild. And that's so true. And I'm sure throughout the years, people come up and just like, yes. And listen, to be honest, though, sometimes lyrics and the words do speak to people, and like the whole meaning of songs do. But that is so true, because sometimes you'll like, once you go to do it, you're like, well, this screws up the whole tempo or the rhythm on this line. I have to move it, you know? And meanwhile, people are getting it tattooed on them.
I know. I know. Yeah, some of my favorite lyrics that Brandon did were last minute. In the studio, like he was in the vocal booth and needed to change it, and there's some of my great favorite lines, but I know that he takes it very seriously, because I think he's dealt with those questions like way worse than I have over the years, and then he knows that people will analyze them forever. So I think he takes it more seriously than he probably did the first time, because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even you know, I've Got Soul But I'm Not a Soldier, I think is so good. Like, do you remember where he came up with that, or how? I mean, I think that line is just perfect still to this day. Like that, what a line.
It's a great line. I don't know where he came up with it. I remember when I first heard it was we just had come up with the song in the garage, Ronnie's hot garage in Las Vegas. And I was like, oh, that's catchy. And then I was like, that song is worth working on. So we continued to work on it. And it was one of the last ones added to Hot Fuss, I think.
I think that one, I mean, obviously everyone loves Brightside, et cetera. It's like that, great, fine. I think that song, especially adding the, you know, the choir to it, and just like the gospel, like just the way that breakdown goes and the bridge and stuff is just wild. And what a way to just really enhance the band at that moment. Like the way that that song continued on was just incredible. And I still think that's one of my favorites of all time for sure. We're speaking of Dave Keuning from, obviously, The Killers. You got a brand new solo album coming out June 25th. Some songs are out there. Make sure to follow him on the socials, but also Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere. You're listening to Gunz. This is The Gunz Show. Speaking of the last Killers album, obviously, I haven't been able to speak with you. I love the last album because it's difficult. It's difficult when the band has so many, you know, has so many massive hits and stuff. It's like, what do you do? What do you do for this one? Like, who's going to like it? Do we write for the old stuff, the new stuff, whatever? But in the end, you're the band. You guys have to play it live, so it has to excite you. And that's what I always tell my audience. Like, the band's the one, as long as they love it, that's truly what matters. But the last album is fucking awesome. I mean, it's like from Blowback to, of course, Lightning Fields, Imploding the Mirage, when that chorus hits, and like that chorus just rips, and the post-chorus aspect of it, that song is just a smash. And I really love this album that you guys put out. Really loved the last one you put out.
Well, I will tell them I wasn't really part of that one,
Right.
But it was. I thought it was good too. I thought it was. I thought it was better than some of the other ones. I'm not going to rank the Killers albums because that might be awkward, but I thought it was. I thought it was a good album, not better than some of the other ones.
Do you think it was just, and we don't have to talk too much about Killers, obviously, and stuff like that, but I just love from the singer-songwriting standpoint, was it, I get, you know, you guys went through the years and stuff, and all of a sudden, you know, get bigger and bigger. Was it just, you know, just, was it crazy at times to be able to kind of always put into fruition the thoughts and the music?
Yeah. You mean like as far as making music?
Yeah.
I mean,
like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's we write a lot. It kind of goes back to my solo thing, I guess. But we would write during sound checks once we started touring, and usually, almost always, the music comes first, or we have these ideas that we set aside, and then sometimes it's almost better to come in closer to studio time because a lot gets forgotten. But yeah, there's just a lot of ideas, and it's getting it to the end is can be challenging when there's so much. I guess we're still sifting through ideas, you know, and for the next record. So, but usually we're into whatever we've done lately, newer stuff.
Right. We're speaking here with Dave Keuning, and of course, the album is out June 25th. What song, if you had to pick one song offhand that you wanted people to pay attention to on this new album, or one song that you're so excited for them to hear, what one do you think that it would be from your solo stuff?
Oh man, that's hard for me to pick. I'm biased, but I mean, I was really happy the way No One Is Calling You a Liar turned out. I just like that one a lot. I hope they like Don't Poke the Bear. It's like almost 9 minutes. I'm really happy with it. There's a little bit of a weirder one, Lost Cause Holiday, that is kind of one of my favorites. I always listen to that one. And it's got like a whole tone verse, which I just tried as an experiment. So the verse is kind of odd sounding, and then it goes to like actual music in the chorus. I love that one. And I hope people, I have to mention it because it's track 14 of 16, and some people don't get that far.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting that you brought that up, because now with, you know, and you guys have already been successful and whatnot, but you're still, this is what you do. You do music, you do songwriting, you do producing, et cetera. This is what you do. But do you think that's almost detrimental that things are so, you know, shout out to Spotify. We love Spotify, but like, it's almost like you had that first 5 to 10 seconds or they're hitting the next button. You know what I mean? You're going next. Do you think that's detrimental we have more access to music than we've ever had before. But on the flip side, we also want that quick. It's like, have you ever had to rewrite a song so it hits earlier than perhaps in the past, do you think?
Yes, and yes, it is detrimental, and I've had to do that, and I've struggled with it because I don't think I would never do it if I thought it made the song worse. But I can't help but think about the average listener these days. So there are some of my songs that go into it quicker. There's one called On the Ground. That's one of my favorites that goes right into the chorus. For that reason, I was like, well, just go right into it because I didn't know how to start it anyway. But yeah, I see it with friends and people who are exploring new music, and yet it's just kind of the thing. They'll give it the first few seconds. Thankfully, the older bands like I don't know, but Zeppelin, for example, they're a great band, so people are gonna love them. But they have some like really long intros that probably, by today's standards, people would skip. You know,
Right. Which is crazy.
In the Light is like one of my favorite songs, and that takes forever to get going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Which is wild when you think about it. Some of the greatest songs had a build up to them. You know what I mean? Even Queen. Think about Queen. Some of Queen's stuff didn't hit into like a while into it. You're just like, you would have missed the whole thing. Like,
I know. No, I know, and it's well, because back then it was a record or a cassette, so it was playing, and you didn't get up to change it. You just let it play in your car or your bedroom, so you kind of had their attention, and it's different. That's actually kind of why I put out 16 songs, because I wasn't sure. I thought this feels like too many, even though I love all of them. Of course, I love all of them. You know, every artist loves all their songs, but I came to the conclusion that maybe any format is okay these days, whether it's one song or a 10-song album or a 20-song record, because people are going to skip around either way. So for the fans who do like it, then they have 16 songs. The others that are just exploring, you know, hopefully they'll pick and choose some of the better ones that Spotify ranks higher or whatever.
Right.
But
well, I urge everybody.
It's a good album all the way through. I mean, I did like balance it like an album was going to be listened to.
Nice. And obviously, we encourage everybody hit play and just let it roll. We got, listen, things are reopening. It's got some jams on it, some riffs that are infectious as hell that I'm all about, and I can't wait for everybody to hear this. I've got a couple like quick, almost like rapid fire type questions for you. First off, sure. What is one of your favorite riffs that you've played, that you've done? What when you're doing a live Killer show, what is the part of the set do you think that you look forward to the most from a guitar standpoint?
Okay. Well, obviously, Mr. Brightside never gets old. I love playing that because the second I start playing it, the fans get excited, and that's always fun for me. I've always liked the intro to Somebody Told Me. Just the whole band, everything the whole band is playing and doing is cool, and it's one of our only songs that has like a separate piece of music just for the intro, and it's kind of pumps you up. So I always enjoy that.
What's a riff that you wish that you wrote that somebody else wrote in like a different band or an artist?
I answered this the other day, and probably Seven Nation Army, because I can't think of a riff that's gotten bigger in the last 10 or so years. When you hear it at sports stadiums being chanted by people in the audience, like without the assistance of the stereo guy, just random audience people starting it, and then it like spreading on like soccer games. Soccer games are a little more crazy than American sports. Yeah. But that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome.
You've obviously toured, worked your asses off throughout the years, small clubs, 300, 500, those turn into 1,200, 1,800 capacity. Then all of a sudden you end up eventually doing Wembley, which is obviously the dream come true. Wembley was wild. What was one of the most nervous moments, either one of those, or perhaps you were like at a festival that really wasn't there for the Killers, and you're just like, oh shit, this crowd's going to hate us. Like, I'm sure you've had those moments. You've had all sorts of different ones. What is one of the more nervous / frightening moments you've had on stage where you're just like, this is fucking wild?
I'll give you a couple, because I only get nervous when I'm unprepared, and I'm usually prepared. The only time I get nervous, and it's my favorite thing to do, by the way, is Saturday Night Live. I love playing Saturday Night Live. We got to do it 3 times, but it really is live. And the other shows like Letterman and all the other ones we did, and Jimmy Kimmel, they're taped, even though you don't necessarily get a second chance. So it's the same thing, but knowing it's not actually live actually helps somehow. But like Saturday Night Live is like live, don't screw up, start the song now, go. And that always makes me a little nervous, but it's also, like I said, probably my favorite thing to do. The only other time I remember being nervous was like we learned like a little piece of a cover like 20 minutes before the show or something. Hey, let's play this. And then like I had trouble like remembering it, and the whole set I was like, this part's coming up in like 2 songs and I don't remember what it is. And I got like 99% of it right, but I didn't get it right in the end, and I was so mad at myself. I think I threw the guitar down, and I think it might be the only time I smashed a guitar. And it wasn't even, no one even saw me smash it. I just like threw it to the side, and I guess it broke apparently.
So it wasn't even like a badass Kurt Cobain smashing moment. It's like it didn't even faze anybody because nobody saw it.
No, it just flew off behind the curtain because I was so frustrated. And I kind of hated the guitar, to be honest. It was like this Remel guitar that we had borrowed for the tour in Europe, and every night I didn't like the way it sounded, and so I kind of I didn't care that I was breaking it.
It's so funny. My buddy John Foreman from Switchfoot, great guy. Switchfoot's a solid band for sure. And he told us about a story that they played Ozfest. They played a one-off on Ozfest, and Switchfoot obviously should not be playing Ozfest, but they played it. And he said he went out on the stage, and obviously it was like right before, I don't want to say Maiden, but it was somebody like that. And the crowd clearly did not want to see Switchfoot play for Maiden. And he said the bottles started getting thrown. And he said at that moment, they just literally went just like, they just embraced it. And he, climbed the scaffolding, kind of started doing like the FU to the fans and back and forth, and kind of just really ripped that, which is kind of, I mean, the Killers have music that like I feel like everybody could love, but still I'm sure that sometimes there's haters at like a festival, you know what I mean, that you don't intend to interact with, and they're just staring at you like you suck, like you know what I mean, like crazy times, man.
Well,
it's a beauty of
it. We've had that. We try and avoid those scenarios where you're the wrong lineup can be be tricky. Yeah. I've had a few of those. I had one on my solo show. I opened up for the Violent Femmes, and I was so happy to open up for the Violent Femmes, especially in my solo thing, because I like the Violent Femmes. But one in the audience guy was like, "Get the Femmes out here," and I just embraced it. I was like, "Hey man, I love it. We got a heckler. This is great." I was like, because I thought it was funny that this guy like, well, like if it wasn't me, it was going to be somebody else. But you're saying get the Femmes out right now for you. I'll go backstage and tell them to come out an hour early so you don't have to wait.
Right, for that, yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious, and I just went into the first song. It didn't bother me.
Yeah, and by then it's like, hey, what a cool moment. I'm actually opening up for the Femmes. You know what I mean? Like that rules. Like, yeah, that I'm there. Yeah, doing that. So
the rest of the show was fine. So whatever.
Real quick, so obviously Mr. Brightside's a jam of a karaoke song. I DJ it like at Emo Night Brooklyn's. I do all sort of emo night stuff. It's transcended generations and stuff like that. 2-part question. What is your go-to karaoke song? And the second part is, what song is your Mr. Brightside like it is for the audience, that as soon as that riff hits, you're losing your mind?
By someone else?
Yeah.
Obviously. Okay. Well, my go-to karaoke song, there could be a couple of them, but I like Tears for Fears songs for some reason during karaoke. Like Everybody Wants to Rule the World and stuff like that. I don't know why. I just have fun singing those. So that's like my go-to band. Andy Williams has got some fun stuff too. Like I Love You Baby and that kind of thing. If you're had a few drinks and want to get your crooner out or whatever. That's fun. Intro, that's a tough one. I've seen Guns N' Roses, and I know whenever Sweet Child of Mine comes on, you're like excited to hear that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's my intros for the obviously the Gunz Show. Guns is my last name, so I have Sweet Child of Mine's the Gunz Show intro for my show.
Okay.
So once you hit that riff, it's like let's go, it's showtime, baby. You know, like yeah.
I didn't know, but that's got to be one of the greatest
Yeah.
intros ever. Just go right into the guitar, and is this cool riff that sucks you in, and then the rest of the song's great.
Final question here with Dave Keuning. Of course, he's got that solo album coming out, his second solo album, by the way, June 25th, Mild Case of Everything. It is a jam, plenty of tracks to fit any mood that you might feel out there. As we are reopening out there, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are right there in front of the tunnel. We've turned that third quarter. We're coming down to that finish line. Life is happening again. Get pumped up. Plenty of songs to get us through the summer and beyond. Question to you, my friend, though. What is if you guys don't have to, you're with the Killers or whatnot, first show back, you don't have to follow any set list rules. What would you want the first song to be live when you guys return?
Oh man, people are gonna hear this. My band members will probably hear it. I don't know. So let me. I guess I don't know. I just hyped up. Somebody told me 5 minutes ago that would be a fun one. I would want to save a lot of them. It's fun to save when you were young and save Mr. Brightside towards the end. I don't know. Yeah, something like that, or maybe like Jenny Was a Friend of Mine, or hopefully a new one. There's a lot of options.
You gotta be excited though,
Maybe
right? Yeah.
Uncle Johnny would be fun to open up to. I don't know. I'll come out there and play that bass riff and that guitar riff.
Just go with it. Well, whatever it is, the crowd's going to go wild. I'm sure you are looking forward to it as well. Whenever shows do come back, hopefully sooner than later. Until then, though, we've got plenty of stuff. We got 16 brand new tracks from Dave himself. And my final question is, it's been tough for everybody mentally, physically, emotionally. Everyone's gone through some shit. Anybody who says they haven't gone through some shit is lying to you. What would you want to say to the fans out there that, like I said, it's been a year, but we feel a lot better today than we did a year ago. So things are turning around. What is your advice? What do you want to say to people to keep hanging on? Hold on, if you would. I believe the Killers sing, hold on. Boom. There you go.
I guess I would say the worst should be almost over. We're on the right track with a lot of things. So there's lots to look forward to. I don't want to say it can get worse. This has been some crazy years, but yeah, it's got to get better. So I think the country in many ways is in the right direction. I have a question for you. Are you a Nets fan or a Knicks fan?
How about this? I normally broadcast out of Madison Square Garden, my music show, but of course the Garden's still shut. But I am a Knicks fan. But then I'm a Knicks fan. And for years, I was reluctant to say it, but I'm so happy because we're finally making that move. The Nets, by the way, nobody in New York likes the Nets right now, even though they have the big three.
That's why I asked. I'm always surprised by this, that they went there and they're probably going to win a championship at some point, if not this year. And then everyone sticks to the Knicks, and the Knicks are having a good year. They have nothing to complain about. But New Yorkers have this habit of the second their team is back, then they start just trashing them again. And it's like, then be thankful that your Knicks are a 4 seed. It's been forever since they were anything to talk about.
Oh, exactly. You think about the Anthony Mason, John Starks, Patrick Ewing years was really the last time it was really exciting. And then, of course, we had Carmelo all those years. And what did he do? But it is interesting you said that, though, because the Nets were always New Jersey, Derek Coleman and all them, Kenny Anderson years. Mm-hmm. And then they come to Brooklyn, but it's like the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets will never be better than the Yankees in New York, from a mindset. The Nets, even though if they win, they'll never be bigger than the Knicks. It's just something about it. It's weird.
It is weird, especially because the Yankees have won over 20 championships, and the Nets only have to win 2 or 3 to surpass however many the Knicks have.
Right.
It might be 1 or 2, or I don't know. So it's definitely possible, but I've played Barclays Center, and it is a great place to play. I'll say that. So I can understand why it'd also be fun to play basketball there, and probably good for the fans.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not bad to have competing teams because for a while that nobody was good. And it's also good to have sports back, you know? What's your favorite sport? The main one for?
I mean, I watch basketball and football and baseball. I stick to most of those. Not much of a hockey guy. Oh, the occasional World Cup. Whatever's in season. I love the playoffs of any of those sports, especially.
Yeah. And we're turning around for the playoffs for sure. But you're right, though. It is funny because the Yankees haven't been that great. The Mets are the Mets are a disaster. The Giants, the Jets are disasters. The Nets are really the only team that we have in the tri-state area, and nobody cares about them. Nobody cares. Also, Kevin Durant, he'll play one day and then he'll be gone for a week, and we're like, "Where'd you go?" Or like, I'm just like, "What?" Like James Harden is still injured. God knows when he's coming back. Every day it's something different. It's crazy, man.
It is crazy. If they're all healthy for the playoffs, though, it'll be hard to beat them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Listen, we got to have you back on. We'll talk some sports. You know what I mean? But I'm just
going to that for a while.
I'm very happy about you. And Dave Keuning, by the way, he's got the brand new album, June 25th. I'm going to play Bad Instincts because I think that song is an absolute jam. You can follow him on Spotify, of course, iTunes, all of that. Pick up these songs, pick up the old stuff. Get ready because it's 2021 and we are coming out strong, baby. Let's roll. Summertime's right around the corner and the living is easy. Let's go. It's Gunz, the Gunz Show, and Dave Keuning here. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming on.